Hi guys, my name is Shen and I'm going to show you how I do a dandelion in Maya today. This is my very first tutorial. Please pardon me if there are mistakes here and there. And before I start on my tutorial, I would like to point out to you my website, which is at AQS-cg.com. It contains my work here, so feel free to take a look. So now let's take a look at the final product. Yeah, it's a dandelion clock effect, which is part of my animated music video, which is a final year project of mine. And how we do it is basically mostly going to be in Maya. There's going to be a little bit of Zbrush, a little bit of Nuke, and do note that this is an advanced tutorial, so I won't be covering the basics of using Maya, like creating how to create a cube and all that. I will be skipping ahead and those stuff. So of course the very first thing that we do is not actually to go into Maya, but to go to different websites to get really good reference images of what you need to do. So for me, this shot is kind of a close-up, but not actually an extreme close-up. So as long as you have close-ups of dandelion, which gives you an idea of the different forms, different shapes that you will be looking at, you're going to be fine. So go ahead and collect as many references as you can, and take note of the little details that you can get out of these references, and do spend time on these references, because it's like the most important thing of any project. Yeah, you really need to spend some time understanding what you are going to do before you can pull it off. So of course, also take note of the colors and stuff, and we can use them in our textures as well. Alright, let's take a look at my base mesh in Maya. It's actually a very simple geometry. This bud is made out of a platonic solid, which can be found over at Polygon Primitives, platonic solids. What I did was just to subdivide it one time, so that I have more edge loops to play with, and I can sculpt the little holes that the bud have later on. So to do that, I just need to go to Mesh, Smooth, and there you go. You can shape it the way you want, but we are going to do most of the sculpting in Zbrush, so don't worry about the shape right now. Just get kind of the general representation of the dandelion and you'll be fine. Okay, so for the leaves is essentially a cube subdivided into several edges, and the stem is a cylinder, and I deleted the base and the top faces because we won't need them later on. They won't be visible to the camera. And as for the seed itself, it's also a cube extruded out. Okay, do take note that this seed has a ending cap in front, which we'll be using to plant our fur. So if you are doing your own, please have this available, so that we can attach the fur here later on. Alright, so what we are going to do is to head over to Zbrush by selecting all our mesh. Okay, delete history, freeze transformation so that they are completely clean in the transform node, and then go to Zbrush, hit the Go Z button, and we'll see you in Zbrush. Alright, here we are in Zbrush. This mesh was brought over from Maya using Gozi, and what I did as an additional step is to actually combine my leaves into as one mesh before bringing it here, so it's a little bit more tidy here. You could do that over in Zbrush as well by going to merge and just merge all your leaves together so that it's looking more organized. Okay, so I'm going to show you the creative process of adding the polypaint and the little details that we're going to see in our final product. I'm not going to show you the entire process because it can be easily be one tutorial by itself. So let's start off with the bud. Okay, the bud, we will need to subdivide this in order to add the little pores to the bud. So to do that, go to geometry, divide until we have enough polygons to sculpt our details. So you can check the number of polygons by rolling over, and this is right now 900,000, near 1 million polygons. I think it's more than enough. So I'm going to show you how I actually sculpt this but using a photograph that we have in our reference image. So we are going to do that using Spotlight. The first step is to go to texture, import your texture. So I've imported this photo and it's right here. So you will have to select this so that it's our active texture that we are using, and you will add it to Spotlight. So the Spotlight menu comes up. Okay, press the comma key to get rid of this light box. So this is the Spotlight. It's a very useful tool to paint textures using photographs as well as to sculpt. So what I like to do is to take down the fade. So or rather take down the opacity so that we can see our mesh a little bit more clearly. Okay, what you are going to need to remember is the shortcut key for Spotlight. If you press Z, we are back into our workspace, and we still have our image here ready to be projected onto our mesh. And if we hit Shift Z, we are going to get out of Spotlight totally. So these are some useful shortcuts: Z, and Shift Z. So right now we are going to start by placing the butt of our image roughly matching the mesh of our geometry here. So when it's roughly there, okay, what we are going to do is to switch to skin shade so that we can paint at the same time. And what the brush that I'm using is standard brush. I took away lazy mouse by pressing L, and I have RGB and Z add on. Make sure these two are on at the same time so that we can paint and sculpt together. And I have RGB at 100. Take down the Z intensity to something like 8 or something. Okay, you have to test this yourself. Okay, so basically we want the little black dots to rise out of the surface, and to do that we will need to hold Alt and sculpt at the same time. Let me show you what this means. It means that it's trying to pull the dark values out of the surface and the bright values inwards, so you get this kind of detail in your butt. So in order to get the polypaint to work as well, we will need to actually come to polypaint and press colorize. So let's try that again. So make sure colorize is on, press Z again. Okay, roughly match your butt to the photograph, and let's just hold Alt and sculpt this, and let's see what we have. Looking kind of like what I want. And so we just have to continue to do this for the rest of the portions of the bud. I guess you get the idea now. So I'm going to move on to the leaves. Okay, the leaves is basically going to be mostly using the move tool and to sculpt to give it its rough shape. So basically this is what I do, and you might have to actually subdivide it as well so that you get a little bit more, but we'll always start with the lowest possible so that we get the shape first. So if you want, you could actually make it separate polygroups so that when we sculpt we don't affect each other. And as for the ending, we can use a brush called pinch. It will basically pinch the bottom together so that it's more leaf-like, and the rest of it is simply move, using the move tool to give it its shape. And you'll take it up more subdivisions when you get to the kind of shape that you want. Okay, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, you get the idea. And as for the high level details, which is the tertiary details, we're going to subdivide it a few more times. I use the damp standard brush to kind of carve the center edge of the leaf. So take down the Z intensity and we can just cut it through the center, and we can further cut it in the way you want it. So, and as for the very small details, you could use block brush, you could use any other brush. Okay, the Z intensity is too high, or you can simply use clay brush, it works as well. So we can just continue sculpting this, and I'm gonna leave that to you. Now I'm going to show you how I do the seed. Okay, one important tool that we can use is the snake hook brush. So let's select the seed. Okay, we will have to subdivide it. Okay, so if you look at the reference image, you're going to see that the seed has this little small little things coming out of the surface. So in order to get that, we can use a snake hook brush, and we just pull little bits of it out. Okay, basically you just have to repeat this and use the move tool to get it in the right position. So if you continue to do your sculpting and take some time to get it to the right shape, you are going to end up with something like this. Okay, fully poly painted. Okay, the seed is, let me up the subdivisions to show you. Okay, the seed will have some details. It's all done using the clay brush, standard brush, and the snake hook brush. Okay, and of course the leaves as well. Okay, I'll take it up in subdivisions to show you. Okay, these are the details, and of course I also poly painted the colors as well So the bottom part of the dandelion leaves is usually kind of dry and brownish in color, and the top part is still fresh. So take a bit of time to paint the colors. Don't forget about your stem as well. Okay, the top part of the stem is kind of brighter than the bottom part. The bottom part has a little bit more of the soil color. So all these are up to you to paint, yeah, as well as the seed itself. Don't forget to poly paint this. So okay, I've actually converted the poly paint to the texture map. Okay, it's quite simple to do. Before we make it a texture map, we have to give our mesh some UVs. So you could do your UVs in Maya. For me, I didn't really spend a lot of time doing it. I just used Zbrush. Under UV map, I just click pack UV tiles, and it will give you the worst looking UV set, but for the purpose of my shot, nobody is going to see the problems with the UVs when we use this technique. So I still went ahead to use this pack UV tiles, and I gave it a 1K map. And when you click new from polypaint, you're going to end up with a texture map like this. Okay, the UVs looks really bad, but nobody cares as long as it works. So okay, this is without the texture, and this is with the texture. So we repeat that for all our geometry. Okay, just new from polypaint for each of our parts of the plant. And what I also did was to get the normal map. Okay, we need the normal map for us to get the details of the bud, the little details of the leaves, in order to deform it a little bit more, because we won't be using 1 million polys in Maya. It will be crazy for the renderer. So we'll be bringing our low poly models over and using normal map to give it the illusion of detail. As for displacement map, it's up to your render budget. If you have a high render budget, you can apply displacement map with normal map so that they look absolutely what you have sculpted in Zbrush. But for my shot, I'm not going to go so extreme close up into the detail, so for me the normal map works, and I'm going to stick to it. So for my normal map, I have tangent on. I do use adaptive and smooth UVs and smooth the normals. You have to fix this in your workflow. If you use smooth, use it throughout your whole workflow, even in Maya. Okay, so all you need is to press the create normal map, and it will create the map for you. Okay, as for the seed itself, because the original if we take a look at the seed and we take it down in subdivisions, we are going to see that the edge loops aren't reflective of the details. The details are coming out at an angle out of the normals. So if we want to preserve this these details that are coming out, we will have to use something called the vector displacement map, which is found here. This is only available in, I guess, Zbrush 4R5 and above. So we will have to create a vector displacement map which allows us to displace the details out of the surface at an angle, because this stores 3 different values in its map. so it will be able to preserve these details. But again, this is up to you, because in a final shot we are likely only going to see it from a distance, so completely up to you whether you want to apply a displacement map. So when we are done with all this, all we have to do is to get it back to Maya by going to Go Z. So which can be found right up here. Okay, you can just press Alt to move the whole mesh over to Maya.